Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports.
Controversy still surrounds college athletics.
We get caught up on a wild weekend in the NFL.
And another brawl in NASCAR.
All that and much, much more. And it all starts right now.
Welcome back to One-on-One Sports. I'm Preston Willett. Big Ben's thrown 12 touchdowns in 2 weeks. Steve, what have you done in that time span?
You know, I killed an entire season of The Office on Netflix. Yeah, I've accomplished a lot.
Impressive.
I'm Stephen Normington, and here are your starting five. Last week's report involving the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill revealed that the university's academic fraud has been going on for a whopping 18 years, which, as I mentioned in last week's show, is almost as long as I've been alive. Meaning that nearly for 2 decades, all media outlets failed to uncover perhaps the most blatant and horrendous example of cheating college sports has ever seen. Given this scandal and recent things we've seen, have we failed our job as watchdogs? Can I say that? I don't want to say it, but...
No, because there's things that the media and that we as the media will never know. Because there are things hidden behind, especially colleges, doors that we will never find out. We can't unlock those doors. When the media broke the Penn State scandal, that been going on forever.
And the best analogy, Preston, that I can think of is remember when you're a little kid and you're reaching your hand in a fishbowl and trying to catch a fish. You could never catch it. That's what it's like because you have all these universities pulling together, having no incentive to follow the rules. Because if you cheat and you can get away with it, you're going to profit. Even if you get fined for 1 year, 2 years, you'll be back. And
just think about schools like Rutgers and Michigan and all these other schools that have
Miami.
In Miami.
SMU's back now, even with the death penalty.
All these violations that have been going over a long time span. Us as the media, we cannot get these the day of. You know, this is going to happen over the time, and then we'll eventually find out. But people are good at keeping things private these days.
The one problem I had was with the NFL with the whole domestic violence issue. We should have been on top of that.
Absolutely. On Friday, Michigan Athletic Director Dave Brandon resigned from his position at Ann Arbor after several months of controversy. Prior to becoming Michigan's athletic director in 2010, Brandon was a very successful businessman as the CEO of Domino's Pizza. Many people feel that Brandon tried to run Michigan's athletics like a business. Steve, is it wrong for the athletic director to prioritize the business side of college athletics over the actual athletes?
Well, much like my president, I want a businessman to run my school.
No.
Because only 16 schools, Preston, made positive revenues last year.
They're never going to make money. That's just the fact that we're going to have to live with. As you said in past weeks, college athletics don't make money. And as we've seen with Dave Brandon,
the NCAA does $1 billion in revenue.
But as we've seen with Dave Brandon, his style has not worked. Michigan athletics has gone down over the past couple of years, and that's why we see athletic directors like Tom Osborne, Barry Alvarez, and Utah's athletic director Chris Hill be successful because they were college football coaches. They were head coaches in the NCAA, and that's how they have an eye for talent. They can get the right guys running their programs.
I understand you need a guy that can negotiate, schedule, and wow people. But Michigan's problem, as it's always been since the 1990s, is they've tried to get a Michigan man. What does that mean? I want the best talent.
Yes.
I don't care if you're from Maine. I don't care if you're from Washington State, Hawaii, or Alaska.
Steve,
just get the best guy in there.
I completely agree that is an issue, but that's just another issue with Dave Brandon.
Got to fix it. As I rolled out of bed this Saturday morning to watch my Nittany Lions take on the Maryland Terrapins in the Big Ten's newest rivalry, I was shocked. Not with the fight that broke out before the kickoff, but with Maryland's captains neglecting to shake the hands of Penn State players at coin toss. Is there a problem here, or is Maryland just trying to say, look, we're in the Big Ten and we're going to make some noise?
As a society, we hold sportsmanship so highly, especially in college athletics, so this is something that should never happen. You should just shake the hands of the opposing team captain at kickoff. I don't care what's going on. I don't care the bad blood between you. You see rivalry games all the time. They shake each other's hands. These are schools that hate each other.
Preston, these schools are 3.5 hours apart. Maryland's only won 1 game in the past 33 meetings. This isn't a rivalry yet, but they tried to make it a rivalry. I'm going to read James Franklin's quote. They might as well shut them down, referring to schools in the surrounding Pennsylvania region, because they don't stand a chance. He's saying, look, I'm going to dominate recruiting and win every single game. And you have to send some sort of message.
Not shaking hands is not how you create a rivalry, though. You do that by good games over the course of time.
Didn't they?
They did, but this is how you do it over the course of time. You have good games. You have good battles against each other. We look at Michigan and Ohio State. They always shake each other's hands, and that's probably one of the biggest rivalries in all of sports.
I completely agree. Respect has to be there, but one thing I ask is, come on, you got to win the game.
It's just nothing but disrespect. Some people go to hockey games to see a good game. Others, though, go to see a couple good fights. Unfortunately for those fans, the number of fights through the first 135 games is down 20% from last season. It seems as if fighting in hockey is starting to fade. Steve, is this good or bad for the sport of hockey?
The days of the enforcer are slowly fading. I'm sorry, Colton Orr, but it's true. Look, hockey is a game now. We've seen these Western Conference teams come in focusing on speed and athleticism. Those bulky enforcers are just slowing the game down. And I know that fighting's fun. I know that it draws tickets, it draws revenue, it makes people turn into the games. But at the same time, the only reason you really need an enforcer is to protect your big stars.
I absolutely love that it's gone down a little bit. But let's be real. Hockey is a tough sport, and they need fighting in the sport to kind of keep that edge and keep that fight going, because these fights are for a reason most of the time. But I like that they've gotten rid of some of the pointless fights that have happened over time.
One point, though, it does protect stars, and particularly slashes, big hits, cheap plays. Those happen in hockey because it's such an intense sport.
It does keep that out of the game.
It does keep that out of the game.
And I like that.
Always good. I don't know what's bigger news, that Madison Bumgarner got his wife a cow as a wedding gift, or that the San Francisco Giants won their third World Series in the past 5 years. Jokes aside, the Giants' run these past few years is one of the most intriguing in sports history, as they've completely missed the playoffs the 2 times they failed to reach the whole show. So, with this in regard, are they viewed as a dynasty?
No, because they missed the playoffs 2 times. As far as I'm concerned, dynasties don't miss playoffs.
Buster Posey their best player was injured in 2011,
Steve,
so I could think you can completely throw that out of the book.
No, I could care less, because dynasties don't miss playoffs. And I understand that they hadn't had Buster Posey. Doesn't matter. They still missed the playoffs. They can't be considered a dynasty.
The staff has been so dominant of bringing in farm players to replace everyone.
I'm not saying that isn't a good franchise. I'm just saying that they can't be considered a dynasty. There's nothing wrong with that. The New England Patriots are a dynasty. They won 3 titles in 4 years.
The NFL, your season is much shorter. In the MLB, you have to play 162 games plus the playoffs.
Fine.
I expect some letdown after you win a World Series.
We'll go to the MLB then. The New York Yankees from '98 to 2000 won 3 in a row.
They have more money than everyone else.
Doesn't matter. Why didn't the Giants do that if there's such a dynasty in the process? You know, dynasties don't take years off. Did you see the Lakers or Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls take years off? They don't take years off because they're a true dynasty.
They're a great team.
Come on, Steve. That is all the time we have for the starting 5. Coming up, I will be joined by our NFL experts right here to make sense of a crazy week in the NFL. Over the halfway point in the NFL season, and fans are beginning to wonder who will be winning their team's division. Our NFL experts Connor Delpreet and Nick Markunis are here to help solve those conundrums. And we'll start with the NFC East, where 2 teams are without their starting quarterback right now, in the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Which NFC East team has the better supporting cast to support that, Connor?
I'm going to say the Eagles, but if you look at these 2 teams, they're very similar. They both have star wide receivers that can distract coverage, give the quarterback a little easier room to work with. They have 2 running backs that are both notorious for just getting yards by the bunches, but that's where I think the Eagles actually have the advantage. DeMarco Murray has been a monster. We know that, but it's taken him a ton of carries to get there. If they think that DeMarco Murray is not going to get tired after even more of an increased workload to make up for Whedon's shortcomings, they got another thing coming. And McCoy is hitting his stride at the right time, 115-yard average of the past games.
Absolutely. And going back to the Cowboys situation with Murray, when you had Romo, you couldn't stack the box as much because he's amazing at getting out of those blindside blitzes, and he'll torch you.
Yeah.
Brandon Whedon, not so much. Teams can stack the box. They're not afraid of Brandon Whedon beating them. So I think the Cowboys are going to have a harder time adjusting to Whedon. Meanwhile, Sanchez, let's not forget, he's taken a team to 2 AFC championships.
And Chip Kelly's offense is made for a QB to be comfortable and to succeed, and that's what Mark Sanchez needs.
Honestly, though, guys, I wouldn't want to pick between Whedon or Sanchez in this situation, but that's what they have to deal with. It might be the most competitive division in football right now, the AFC North, but who's going to win it?
Who is going to win it? That's a great question. Right now, it's a toss-up, but I really like the Steelers. I think, you look at the last 2 games, they're putting up mad numbers. It's just unbelievable. The quarterback rating for perfect with the QBR is 158.3. Roethlisberger's had a 148, almost nearly perfect. I think they're going to ride the wave and the Steelers, I see them taking this division.
You know, I do like the Steelers pick. I think it's between the Steelers and the Bengals. I went with the Bengals from Cincinnati only because I think they've been the most consistent team on offense in terms of the variety of weapons they've had. When you look at it, they had 2 guys that have been injured in Gio Bernard and A.J. Green, and they've had guys that stepped up for them. Jeremy Hill came in and had the best day that a rookie running back for Cincinnati has had in the past 17 years with 150-plus yards. Mohamed Sanu has been the leading receiver on that team for the past 4 games with A.J. Green sideline. This shows me that the Bengals have a power running attack, which is what really matters in the AFC North.
That's what it's all about in the
running
AFC North.
attack.
Absolutely.
And then they have a bunch of weapons on offense.
I don't know how that tie is going to play out. I think that's going to be very interesting to see about the tie.
And I think it's interesting also to see that the Steelers and Bengals haven't played each other yet.
That's going to be fun. It's
very interesting.
Right now with the Bengals, I don't know if I can trust them yet. And the Steelers are kind of coming up, so they're both in the middle right now. But a lot of people thought the NFC West was going to be that toughest division in football. But the Cardinals are flying high right now. What's been the key to the Cardinals' success? And can anyone in the NFC West catch them?
No. Well, first of all, I don't think anyone in the NFC West is going to catch them. I think they're running away with it, and the way they've done it is with great total team defense and veterans stepping up in crucial situations.
Absolutely.
Their defense has allowed only one team to score over 20 points, and that's the Denver Broncos. Does that really count? If Peyton Manning scores 20-plus points, I'd count it a victory.
I think tying into that, I think coaching has played a big part of this.
Exactly.
I think Bruce Arians and their defense coordinator have done a great job of getting the players ready. I mean, Carson Palmer goes down. They stay even keel, don't miss a beat, really. They've lost huge defensive injuries. And like you said, their defense has stepped up and played great. So I think the coaching has put them in a position to be successful.
Like you mentioned, Carson Palmer, he's a touchdown to interception ratio of an 11-2. He's completing 60% of his passes.
He's going to win a lot of games.
And finally, Larry Fitzgerald is on a good Arizona Cardinals team, and he's playing well.
Last time that happened, they were in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. I love that Larry Fitzgerald finally has a good team to work with again.
I think right now, I'd safely say Bruce Arians Coach of the Year right now.
Exactly.
Locked up.
But speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, it seems like every year there's been one team that had a great season that doesn't make the playoffs like the Cardinals last season. So do we have that team this year? And if so, who is it?
I think right now Detroit worries me. They dig themselves such big holes, and so far they've dug themselves out of them. But I think that's a bad habit to get into. And you look at last year where they were in the lead midway through the season last year, thought they would take the NFC North, and they fall off, missed the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
So they scare me. I think this could be a team that maybe wins 10 games and misses the playoffs. So
yeah. I agree. I think the Lions are a team you have to worry about, and I also think a team that you have to worry about is the Baltimore Ravens. On offense, they have the power to win those games because they have kind of a pancake schedule, and by that I mean they're playing Tennessee, Jacksonville. I think they can beat Cleveland. I think they can beat Houston. I think they can win those games with their offense with the resurgence of Steve Smith. Owen Daniels is finally starting to play in a Gary Kubiak tight end friendly production without Dennis Pitta. But the thing that worries me is that defense. Shocking. Breaking news. Shockey Brown and Dominique Franks were just cut from the team about 10 minutes ago for their performance versus the Steelers. Their defense worries me. Their secondary is a little shaky. I see them winning 10, but the Steelers and Bengals are going to make the playoffs.
We'll see what they can do. Again, the Ravens just played the Steelers, did not look good. But all we know at this point is these divisions are still wide open as we come down the second half stretch of this season. But coming up, Steve and the NBA guys will try to go over-under with the NBA season.
Now it's time for This Week in Bad Stats.
Bad stats?
Horrible stats. Here goes. 132.
That's how many batters struck out 4 times in one game last season.
Wow, very good. Here's a tough one, though. 3 and 4.
No idea.
That's how many kids witness bullying. 3 out of 4.
That's not a good stat.
No, it's not, but it can change. Kids want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov and give them the tools they need to help prevent bullying.
There are plenty of safe ways kids can help at stopbullying.gov.
It's no fairy tale that the right fit means everything, especially when it comes to car seats. Always choose one that's the right fit for your child's age and size.
That does make a difference.
To find out more, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
The NBA season is just tipping off, but with only a handful of games played, it's difficult to make sense of everything we've seen thus far. So I'm joined by Andrew Zung and Eric DeStefano to play a little over-under based on some early season numbers. Let's start off with Chris Belash. Is he back to Toronto standards? This guy was great before, and you saw his numbers shrink a little bit playing alongside LeBron James, Eric.
He is back, and I think he's going to average more than 23 points a game this season.
Definitely.
You're going to hear the PA announcer in American Airlines Arena say, Chris Bosh, a lot, because LeBron James, as we know, is now a Cleveland Cavalier, and that's going to open up about 17 or 18 shots a game.
Oh, without a doubt. Plus, with how Wade's been a little bit injured a lot.
Right.
you're going to see Chris Bosh. They're going to need to use him a lot more, run the offense through him, but they're going to really miss LeBron without Bosh.
Yeah, and his usage percentage is up to 28.5% from the 23.2% in his earlier 4 years in Miami. So far this year he's being used more. He's also in Miami improved as a mid-range jump shooter, when in Toronto he really relied on his back-to-the-basket game in the post.
So we can agree that he's going to average over 23 points a game, and that Dwayne Wade isn't the Finals MVP Dwayne Wade anymore.
Unfortunately,
Let's move on to another power forward / center, Anthony Davis. He's averaging three blocks a game, excuse me. Can he keep up these ridiculous numbers the entire year?
Oh, easily, without a doubt. I think this is going to be Anthony Davis's breakout year. And while he can't average 6 blocks per game the whole year, he's going to easily average over 3. This guy's 6'10", 7'7" wingspan. And with Omar Ashik in there, he has a lot more freedom now to roam around the paint a little bit more. He's going to be a big force on defense.
I think the addition of Omar Ashik is actually going to be a problem. I think he's going to average less than 3 blocks. And the reason why I say that is last year, Anthony Davis, 42% of his minutes came at the center position. This year, 91% of his minutes are at the power forward position. I think with Omar Ashik back there, that's the final line of defense, and we know he's a great shot blocker. I think Anthony Davis, he can play a little bit farther. You know, he's going to be guarding power forwards who can stretch the floor.
I think that's going to actually help him a lot more, Davis, because he'll be able to float around a little bit more. And plus, if we look back, over 90 NBA players have actually averaged over 3 blocks per game, and some of those guys were power forwards who weren't necessarily the main piece, like Theo Ratliff, and even Ibaka with Kendrick Perkins when they were together. And a lot of people said Perkins was the anchor. Ibaka was able to average over 3 blocks per game, and Davis is a lot better.
One more thing I fear, though, is that the Pelicans don't play at a fast pace. Last year, they were ranked 22nd in the NBA in pace, and the year before that, Davis's rookie year, they ranked 29th in pace.
Eric, I'm going to go with Andrew here. Anthony Davis is an absolute stud, and I think that the sky's the limit in terms of his development this year, especially offensively. But let's move on to some team statistics we've seen so far that have been a little weird. Will over 6 teams average 9 3-point field goals or more a game?
No, they won't. And I did a little bit of math here. To average 9 threes a game over 82 games in an NBA season, a team would have to make a total of 739 threes. In the past 5 years, only 14 teams total have done that.
And see, even
so there's no way that.
See, I think I agree. The past doesn't really set it up well for now, but NBA teams are running at a faster pace, and so far we've seen a lot more teams willing to shoot the 3 ball, and a lot of the top teams actually have guys who can shoot the 3 ball really well. I mean, you look at San Antonio, teams like Chicago, and I think that there actually will be over.
I absolutely agree that the NBA game is changing, but not that rapidly. I don't think we'll see that many teams average over 9
Yeah, we've seen the shift to basically attempting 3-point shots and then dunks and layups. All these sabermetric guys like you are pretty happy. Another interesting thing that we've seen, more than 5 teams average over 45 rebounds.
I'm actually going to go with yes or this over it. And the reason why is because you look at some teams, down low, they're going to be absolute animals. We're looking at Cleveland. They have guys who can all rebound at the 4 and 5. Then you have LeBron, Sean Marion. So a team like that definitely will. And even some people don't realize that Indiana over the past 3 years, they've averaged over 44 boards per game. So some under-the-radar teams, and it's going to be able to push that number over.
The thing with me is that you're always going to have good rebounding teams and bad rebounding teams, but ultimately it comes down to pace. I'm not convinced that pace has picked up this quickly yet.
See, I
Maybe
think
in a couple years down the road.
And that goes back to the 3 points. That's why I think the NBA pace over the past couple years has definitely increased a little bit.
It's increased, but maybe not enough to get that many teams that we need to average over 45 rebounds a game. And in the last 5 years, only 9 teams have done that.
If the Spurs win again, I'm sure we'll see some more, though. Hey, let's be honest. That's all the time we have for the NBA. Coming up, Preston is going to kick it with our soccer guys, EPL style.
It's football season in England, and no, I'm not talking about random NFL games. It is the English Premier League, and 10 games into the season, we have our soccer experts Ryan Meisinger and John Roddy in studio to break down some of the big topics floating around the league. Let's kick off the discussion with Manchester United, who arguably look better under Louis van Gaal than before, but they still sit at 10th in the table. So what is the formation that Van Gaal should best utilize Man U's talent? Ryan, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with the 4-2-3-1. This is very versatile, and it goes back a while with a lot of national teams using it. You have your 2 center defensive mids, which give you stability in the back. Then what I really want to talk about is your 3-1 up at top, which from left to right is going to go Di Maria, Mata, and then Rooney, with Mata and Rooney having a lot of freedom to interchange throughout the game. And with Falcao up top, if you have Di Maria, Mata, and Rooney supplying balls into the box to Falcao, a world-class finisher who doesn't miss many chances, then for Louis van Gaal, you're getting a lot of goals in the back of the net.
The only problem I have with that is your omission of Robin van Persie.
Right, which would take the role of a super sub.
Of course, and who I have in my 4-3-1-2, a little reversal there, with your normal David De Gea. Then you've got Rafael, Jones, Rojo, and Daley Blind at left back, who's played left back his entire career. He played it in the World Cup under Van Gaal and shined. That Van Persie header would never have gone in without Blind playing left back.
Right, who plays a little bit more midfield now at United.
You got Fellaini in the middle, Rooney on his left, Mata on his right, Di Maria a little further ahead than them. Then you have Falcao, Van Persie at the very top. You can't omit Van Persie. He is one of the best strikers in the world.
You can. I did.
You can. He was one of the best players in the BPL 2 years ago, had an injury last year.
He's getting up there, though, and you have to keep that in the back of your mind.
Can you put either one of those guys on the bench?
No.
No? You have to have
I say yes, but...
You have to have both of them. You have to have both of them. You signed Falcao from Monaco for all this money and Van Persie from Arsenal.
But then that gets into a discussion about signings, which is just another day.
So many different signings. But among the Premier League mayhem, one team has kind of snuck up on everyone, which is Southampton, who are currently second in the table right now. Are they a legit team,
Snuck up on everyone? How about everyone take a look at their schedule before the season starts?
Do you want me to run it down?
And tell me, before you go, I'm going to tell you one thing. They've beaten one team currently in the top 10 on the Premier League table thus far. That's all I'm going to say. You can go ahead.
So you have wins against Newcastle, you have Swansea City, you have QPR, Sunderland, which was a massacre of 8-0, Stoke City, Southampton with losses to Liverpool and Tottenham.
And they drew with West Brom at home. They've only played 2 top teams, and Liverpool and Tottenham aren't even top teams. They've not played one single team in the top 4 yet. They still have to play Chelsea,
the big
United,
test, really
City
the big
twice.
test. They have late November. They go City, Arsenal, United.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that it's more of a question of can they finish Europa League, which is 5-6, rather than Champions League, because that's not happening.
Can they finish with a
top
win?
of the table?
With any result?
Well, right now, we're going to have to wait till they play some of the bigger competition, which they have not done yet. But among all the big-name signings like Cesc Fabregas, Diego Costa, Angel Di Maria, summer transfer window, who has been the most underrated signing from that window in the Premier League?
You know, I really wanted to say DeAndre Yedlin with Tottenham because I'm a big USA guy, but he's not there until January. So I'm going to go ahead and say Gylfi Sigurdsson from Tottenham, who is now just lighting it up over with Swansea City. The Icelandic man, the Iceman. He has 6 assists in the Premier League, which is a ton. And in 2 games back-to-back against United and Burnley, ran 7 miles a game. Gylfi Sigurdsson is the machine of the Swansea City team. Machine.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a guy by the name of Pele. No, not the greatest player of all time, Pele.
That's what I was thinking.
Graziano Pele, playing for Southampton.
Although I would say Pele, the Brazilian, could still perform.
Of course, yeah.
60 years.
So Pele transferred from the Dutch league this past summer, replacing Ricky Lambert, who had a stellar season for Southampton, not getting any minutes now at Liverpool. This man is an absolute machine. Where did he come from? 29 years old. We haven't seen anything of him. Bicycle kick this year. 6 goals in 10 games. No one saw this coming, and now he's basically putting himself in the running for MVP of the Premier League.
And it's a name who wasn't in the Premier League before, unlike Sigurdsson, who had time with Tottenham. Of course.
Exactly. Well, there are no extra minutes here today, but coming up next, Steven, our baseball expert, take a look ahead to the MLB offseason.
Wake the sun. Tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
I think my heart palpitations are finally subsiding after the most exhilarating World Series of my lifetime. However, I know for one that Josh Markowitz is already thinking about the opening day next season, and there are a lot of great underrated free agents on the market. So Josh, let's get to it. Who do you think is the most underrated pitcher right now that's a good deal for teams?
I like the 31-year-old right-hander Brandon McCarthy. I think he's the best of the second-tier starting pitching free agents on the market. He posted an ERA of 4 last year, but an FIP of 355 and an xFIP of 287, which means I think his performance is going to positively regress this year. Posted a career-best strikeout rate of 7.9 Ks per 9. Doesn't really walk anybody at 1.5 walks per 9 innings. And I think he got a little bit unlucky last year. Allowed a career-high BABIP of 328 when his normal average is 297. And 16.3% of his fly balls went out of the park. His career average is only at 10.3%.
He's got all the intangibles coaches want. He's 6'7", over 200 pounds, a really intimidating presence out there on the mound. Let's move to infielders. I am really intrigued by this pick because he didn't do very well coming to the Nationals after the trade deadline to replace an injured player, so convince me.
I like Asdrubal Cabrera. Outside of third base, there's not a lot of great infielders on the market, but I think Cabrera is the best of the middle infield options. He's hit at least 14 home runs every year in the past 4 years, which is good power in this offensive environment for a middle infielder. And his slash line last year of 241, 307, 387, while that equates to a slightly below average OPS plus, I think it can come up because he had a 272 BABIP last year when his career high is 307.
Can you talk about his versatility a little bit? This guy can play multiple positions,
Yeah,
correct?
He's not a great shortstop defender, but he can at least cover it for you. Probably should move to second, though. And he adds some positive base running value. So I think he can do a lot of decent things that you want out of a middle infielder.
Now, let's shift to outfield. There's a lot of targets available this free agency period. Who do you like?
I like Nori Aoki, the Royals' right fielder, because while he's not going to hit for a lot of power, he's so consistent at hitting and getting on base. A 285, 349, 360 line last year, and he can play decent defense for you. The metrics were kind of all over the place with him this year, but for his career, they're positive. His line drive percentage is getting better each year.
Josh, I love those stats. What's wrong with my guy, Yasmani Thomas? He's 23 years old. I know you're going to have to pay $100 million for him.
I don't think he's underrated. This was supposed to be underrated free agents. The big-time Cuban defector coming here, I don't think we can call him underrated if he's going to get the biggest contract ever for a guy coming off the island.
23 years old, huge promise, but stay tuned as Preston and I get ready to duke it out once more at the debate desk. The chase for the Sprint Cup Championship took another intense turn Sunday night when past champions Jeff Gordon and Brad Keselowski were part of a brawl after Jimmy Johnson won his 3rd consecutive Texas Fall race. All the fights we've experienced in this year's NASCAR edition got us thinking, what is the most memorable sports fight of our lifetimes? And I know we're going to agree here.
I don't think
there's
any disagreement here because not even just NBA fans, but sports fans remember where they were the night of the Malice at the Palace. When Ron Artest went up into the stands, a fan threw a beer at him, and he just went up in the stands and went crazy, started throwing haymakers everywhere.
For some odd reason, the most memorable thing about the night for me was the announcer screaming, "Where's the security?" I don't know why that sticks in my head. It's just the image and then him running up the stairs, but it completely changed the landscape of the NBA. All those players that were associated as thugs were kind of quickly swept out of the NBA. You saw the dress code violations change. Players had to start putting on suits and ties. And a much more astute league kind of really emerged because of this incident.
I just think the thing that I remember the most from that incident is the next day, actually the next week, just watching ESPN, and that was all they talked about for the whole week. Not just one show, not just SportsCenter, but every show. That's all they talked about because it was such a big event.
It was a huge event.
Guys got suspended for the whole season. I mean, these weren't just mediocre teams. This is the Pistons and the Pacers, 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference.
For the Pistons in particular, it kind of galvanized that franchise, and they went on to win championship after championship.
It drove them, but sunk the Pacers.
It completely sunk the Pacers. But the best part, Meta World Peace emerging. Come on, that's an awesome.
It's got to be part of the best. Well, that's all the time we have for you today. But if you missed anything or want to watch us again, check us out on YouTube.com/101sports.
Also, be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 101sports.
As always, thanks for watching. Until next time,
whose side are you on?